Hello people of the internet, this is Shaky Jake, and I really need a catchphrase. You are watching another Disney game that I played in my childhood with the Jungle Book. And this is the third part of a loose trilogy that I've sort of formed since I first opened this channel, where I played through 3 of the big-ish Disney games that I played as a kid, many of which were, well, they were all done by Virgin Interactive in some way or another. And I played through The Lion King 2 years ago when I started the channel, then last year I played through Aladdin, and now I'm playing through the Jungle Book. But this is the first time I'm recording a Let's Play where I'm doing the commentary after I've played through the game. And there's a couple of reasons for that, aside from wanting to try it out to see how the style suits me. It was mainly because I suck at the Jungle Book compared to The Lion King and Aladdin. It's the one I have the least amount of experience with. But there you go, I thought I'd give it a try anyway, because this game does require quite a bit of concentration. So at the moment I'm just going through the main menu here, or I was going through the main menu, because the bare necessities you'd think would be like a mini game, but it's not, it just tells you how the game works. And then here I'm selecting my difficulty, which as you can see there's 3. Practice I think is the one where you only get to play a couple of levels and then you've beaten the game at like level 4 or something. But I decided to play it on normal because playing this game on hard is actually pretty hard, very much like it was with Aladdin. So I'm doing this post-recording, so this is very odd for me. I'm not used to this, but I'm doing my best to try and keep up to date with my past self. So we'll see how this goes. And as you can see, this is the MS-DOS version of the Jungle Book, which is heavily based on the Sega Mega Drive version of the game. And I believe this game was actually first developed by David Perry and his team, the man who was partly responsible for the Aladdin game. And the original intention was David Perry and his team were going to work on the Jungle Book game, but then David Perry left and went on to form his own studio. So I think Eurocom took over for the Mega Drive version. I could be completely wrong. It's been a while since I've looked it up, but the MS-DOS version was ported by East Point Software, who you saw at the beginning, and they also did the Lion King MS-DOS port as well. I can't remember if they also did the Aladdin port on DOS, but they definitely did the Lion King at least. And that was a mistake I made in the Lion King Let's Play. Yes, it was a Westwood Studios game, but East Point Software did port it over to DOS. But yeah, here you go. So this is running through DOSBox, as to be expected on Windows 10, because the good old games version of all of these Disney games are through DOSBox, which is quite nice. Doesn't mean I have to set up much, it just runs straight away. That's the pros of emulation, as I've said before. But yeah, this level's pretty standard. It's just your typical opening level for a Disney game. Relatively straightforward, relatively easy. And you'll notice that the way I played this game was a little bit inconsistent. I did okay initially, and then I had a couple of stupid deaths later on. I've lost count of how many times I actually died in this recording, but I'm sure it was at least 5 or 6 times. But yeah, this level just gets you used to the mechanics of the game, and whilst this is heavily based on the Sega Mega Drive version, there are a couple of differences. The sound quality, for example, is different from the Mega Drive. You'll either think it's weaker or you'll think it's better, depends on which track's playing. Some of the songs have been rearranged so that different songs play on different levels. So at the moment we've got the Bare Necessities playing, which is cool. Great way to start the game. And you've also got this idea with the Jungle Book game is it's a bit of a collectathon. You go around and just pick up red coloured gems, and then you get so many to move on to the next level. Depending on what difficulty you play it on, the more or less gems you have to get. So on hard you have to pretty much get all of them apart from 2 or 3, but on easy and normal it's a lot more straightforward. Or sorry, practice I should say. Now, there are a couple of flaws with this version of the game, such as throwing bananas, it's a lot worse on this version than it is on the Mega Drive. I'm not sure why. You'll see it a lot later on where the bananas are just completely useless to throw, which doesn't happen on the Mega Drive version. And yeah, this music's different on the DOS version. On the Mega Drive version, it's a lot more appropriate for beating a level. The music is much more appropriate. And yet we got a bonus level here, and these are relatively straightforward, nothing too special about these. But yeah, it's relatively straightforward. You can actually collect every single item in these bonus levels. I don't during this recording because I sucked, but it is possible to do. I did it on the Mega Drive version when I emulated it on my Retro Pi about a month ago. But yeah, there you go, that's the bonus level. We encounter that a couple of times because I do get all the gems on certain levels. And yes, I'm not reading any of the story stuff because I'm sure most of my audience can read, or at least I hope they can. Oh, this level. The music for this level is the most Mega Drive sounding song for a video game ever. And I'm sure some people will be like, what are you talking about? But this level's track always makes me think of, if you were to find the most generic sounding Mega Drive sound ever, it would be this. And yet we got a couple of power-ups and different items, so you can switch between them. And you'll see me demonstrating, I think in a couple of minutes, you'll see me demonstrating the differences between some of these weapons. Because there's one weapon I have a big fondness for because it's just so overpowered compared to everything else. But yeah, this is an underrated game. It's not... Oh, and the hit detection's a bit off as well. It's even more apparent on the Mega Drive. It's not as bad and as noticeable on here, at least I don't think it is. But yeah, so I think here I'm demonstrating the bananas. So it doesn't make sense that you can throw an infinite amount of bananas when you've got your normal weapons, but the moment you get 2 out, suddenly it becomes a bit of a problem. A little bit inconsistent there, but there you go. Maybe Mowgli was throwing different types of bananas and the game's limitations at the time couldn't demonstrate that. But yeah, that's this is the Jungle Book, pretty much. It's a collectathon. You go around, you pick up gems, you kill some enemies, you have a couple of boss fights to do, and you play through the plot of the Jungle Book, the Disney film, which I actually rewatched a couple of days ago. Well, yeah, it was days ago actually, it wasn't that long ago. And it still holds up really well, the original 1967 Disney film. It's one of those films I grew up watching quite a lot as a kid, and then I spent years not watching it, and then rewatching it now, still a great film. I mean, I prefer the live action version to an extent because, I don't know, it just feels a bit better to me. But I do like the voice acting in the original Jungle Book, particularly Phil Harris as Baloo, because Phil Harris was, for me at least, one of the best, if not the best, Disney voice actor ever, because he just had this undeniable charm that many actors struggle to convey. Because, you know, Phil Harris had this big, larger-than-life personality. Oh, and I think I die here because the hit detection is abysmal in this version. And even though it's a bit better than the Mega Drive, it's still a bit iffy. And also because the banana... Sorry, I should say, throwing projectiles is dodgier on this version. And whilst the hit detection isn't as bad on this version compared to the Mega Drive, it is still quite bad in places. So I think I die here, or I die very soon, because I'm trying to kill this porcupine, or whatever the hell it's meant to be, and it just isn't working for me, and yeah, I die here. So this is the first death of the game. It's quite a funny death sequence, actually. It does have some missing sound effects, though, compared to the Mega Drive. I'm not sure why, but there you go. So yeah, this, as you can no doubt see, the hit detection for throwing projectiles is awful. But yeah, that's the Jungle Book. It's pretty fun actually, if you want to pass the time for a bit. I mean, this is a fun game to play. And if you decide to play it on the hardest difficulty, good luck, because it is brutal. The level where I die the most is actually one I wasn't expecting to die on loads because I had so much trouble with it. I think I actually died about 3 or 4 times on that same bit because I was an idiot, basically. I know that on the SNES version, the SNES version is a different Jungle Book game to this. It's not a timed-based collectathon. You're just going from level to level, you're exploring it, you're making your way from point A to point B. But it's much more difficult than this because, again, the hit detection is just as inconsistent, but the actual enemy placements, the way the levels are designed, it's much more unforgiving than this one. This one you can at least pick up and play and just sort of enjoy. But again, I'm only basing that on the limited experiences I've had emulating the SNES version because I didn't grow up with that one. It's funny actually, most of the PC MS-DOS ports for Disney games at the time were based on the Mega Drive ones. I don't know if that was a licensing issue or with Nintendo, or if it was just what Virgin thought people would prefer. I don't know, because Virgin didn't have involvement with every single Disney game if it was on the SNES. Sometimes there were other developers, so you had Capcom for Aladdin, for example. But yeah, how many versions of the Jungle Book have I actually seen? I've seen the original Disney film, which this game's based off. I've seen the recent Jungle Book live action adaptation. Oh, and this is different music from the Mega Drive version. This boss music is kind of like the standard theme in this version of the game for bosses. And you'll notice how easy it is to take bosses out once you start using special weapons. It's actually a bit of a joke, to be honest. If you don't use the bananas and you use anything else, the bosses are just so easy. So I deliberately didn't try to take him out as quickly as I could have done because I wanted it to be somewhat entertaining. I could have easily just taken Car out right now, but I decided, you know what? No. I just want to show it off for a bit. It at least shows you how his pattern works. But there we go, that's Car the Snake defeated. With the ill-fitting level complete music, which is much better on the Mega Drive. I need to stop comparing it to the Mega Drive thinking about it, because I'm being quite harsh against this version of the game. But it is fun. It actually looks better on the recording here than it did when I was playing it. But yeah, let me know what you think of the post-recording commentary. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I have hopes for it. I want to be positive about it because I wouldn't mind doing more of this in the future if it's a strategy that works for me. I say that as if this is a game. I hope it works for me, basically. I want it to, because there are going to be some games I play in the future which I couldn't justify playing and recording commentary at the same time. I've got a couple of ideas of games that I think I could do this kind of style with more than recording live there and then. But yeah, that's time's up for the bonus level. And we've got the Dawn Patrol. Again, this game is heavily based on the original film. And I never realised, actually, all the linking stuff between the levels, it doesn't actually last too long. It's only the very beginning of the game where you actually have to read quite a bit to get into the general storyline of the Jungle Book. And you'll notice I keep falling off the same thing here and jumping off because I'm struggling to hit that snake for a bit. But there you go. And that compass, before I forget, that compass is the biggest difference between practice, normal and hard. You can't get the compass on hard, but you can get it on any other difficulty, and it basically shows you where the nearest gems are. So it's quite useful in that sense. And I got on the wrong elephant here because the male elephants like to attack you, whereas the female elephants do not. Oh, and this music is, again, I said I wasn't going to try and compare it to the Mega Drive version, but the Mega Drive version music is so much better for this level. We do hear what the actual music was meant to be later on in a different level, but there you go. So before anyone says anything, no, I don't know where Mowgli gets his infinite supply of bananas. whatever his secret is, it must be one that only he knows, because it's a ridiculous amount of bananas. And I'm sure somebody's going to be like, oh, it's game logic, you don't have to question it. And I'm thinking, I know, but wouldn't it be nice if we could speculate where he gets all these bananas from? And why he has so many of them, and why they never seem to run out. But yeah, the checkpoint is the kid elephant, or the baby elephant from the film, which is quite clever. It makes sense. Mowgli's friend, whose name I've forgotten, even though I only watched the original film a couple of days ago. I promise it wasn't research for this video. I actually did want to see it again, because it had been so long. So, as I was saying earlier, Jungle Book films that I've watched the original Disney film. I watched the 2016 remake, the live action one. And I did see, many years ago, another Disney live action adaptation from the early 90s, early to mid 90s. I remember it being pretty good, but I don't actually remember much about it other than the animals didn't talk. That was like the weird difference between that version of the Jungle Book. It was much more realistic. It probably was closer to the book as well. And then I've also seen the Andy Serkis Jungle Book film on Netflix a couple of months ago, which I think, was it Mowgli Legend of the Jungle? That was okay. I know it had mixed reviews, but I actually didn't mind it too much. There was one bit in that film where I laughed so much to the point where I don't think it was intentional. It was basically one of the most unintentionally funny moments of that film. There's a bit where like a wolf gets thrown off a cliff or chucked off a cliff, and you see this wolf falling through like a sort of Tasmania style, you know, like a sort of Looney Tunes style fall. And then the next shot cuts to Mowgli running through this jungle, and then this same wolf just happens to cartoonishly land right next to where Mowgli's running. I don't think it was intentional, but I laughed so hard at that moment to the point where I wish I'd recorded it, because when I tell it to people, they don't believe me. But it's like midway through the film, and it's one of the most unintentionally funny moments I've seen in a film in quite a while. But yeah, it was an alright film adaptation. It was just a bit tonally odd. Like, half the time it was really dark, or trying to be a lot more mature than most Jungle Book films. And then the other half of it was sort of Andy Serkis thinking, oh, maybe I should lighten it up a bit, or somebody telling Andy Serkis to lighten it up a bit so it's more recognisably like the Jungle Book. But again, who knows? It was an alright film for what it was. Between the two, I'd probably say the Disney live-action version was the more superior film, based on production and overall scope. But the Andy Serkis one is one I do enjoy watching, and I did enjoy watching it when I did. I think there's room for both adaptions anyway. To be honest, there's room for a whole bunch of different adaptions. I think having more adaptions of the same story can be a good thing, if it's done in a way that doesn't feel like you're repeating the same ground over and over again. And the hit detection is letting me down here, and so are the weapons. These birds are really annoying as well. Thankfully, the DOS version does tone down how often they screech a lot, because on the Mega Drive they're constantly screeching to the point where you're just thinking, shut the hell up, and then you want to kill them because they're that annoying. But here they've been toned down, or maybe it's my imagination. But it's a fun game. It's one I played the least out of The Lion King, Aladdin and The Jungle Book, mainly because I preferred those two films over the Jungle Book film, and also I preferred the games they had as well. But it is a fun game to play, and if you're bored of any other Disney game, this is a good alternative. That being said, I was always more of a Tarzan fan when it came to feral children that Disney have made film adaptations of. I don't know, I just prefer Tarzan. I know the Jungle Book was first, and Tarzan was inspired by, or sort of copied, the Jungle Book. But between the two, I honestly prefer Tarzan. And sadly, I missed that gem there, which did annoy me at the time. And I also missed the life as well. Believe me, when I was sitting here yesterday playing it, I sat there and I was thinking, of course I'd missed the good stuff before the level ends, because you can't actually move away from Bagheera once you're in his sort of hitbox. So I missed out on a bonus level there, unfortunately. So here we go, our first introduction to Baloo. I think he appears in this level. I'll have to double check. Is he on this level? Nope, okay, must be the next level then. Now, this song is pretty cool. This song does appear on the Super Nintendo version as well, and I think the SNES soundtrack sounds better than either the DOS version or the Mega Drive version. But it's a good song either way. I'll give the developers credit for this game. Compared to The Lion King and Aladdin, they didn't have recent sources to use. So with The Lion King and Aladdin, both of those games were based on very recent movies at the time, so they had access to all of Disney's stuff at the time. Whereas with the Jungle Book, most of the people involved with the original film, and I'm taking loads of damage here, pay very close attention to a sound glitch there as well, because after Mowgli gets damaged, you can kind of hear him still making the owl sound in the background. I don't know if that's a DOS thing or if that's just an emulation issue, I don't know. But the Jungle Book game, the developers didn't have as much access to people who worked on the original film because the game was developed almost 30 years after the original film, whereas with Aladdin and The Lion King, they were developed simultaneously with the films they were based on, and the Disney animators at the time were involved with the development process, or some of them were consulted at least, because I know it differed depending on whether we're talking about Aladdin or The Lion King. But considering this didn't have as much help from Disney, this is still a fantastic game. The soundtrack is good, the new songs feel like they could have come from the original Jungle Book film, and all the orchestrations and the rearrangements of classic songs, they all sound good. I can't remember if it's this level where I almost run out of time or if it's the next one. I think it's this level. But you'll realise how close you can cut the time in terms of how close you are to cutting it time-wise when you get too involved in the level trying to find all the remaining gems. So yeah, that's my favourite weapon of the game, by the way, these brown things. I'm not sure what they're meant to be, it's a little bit hard to tell, but they're my favourite weapons in this game because they're so overpowered. So you'll notice I use them quite a bit in this playthrough. I love this beat here as well. So here I do some pretty good platforming for me, I must admit. Didn't fall in the water then. So as you can see, I'm trying to find the other gems, the 5 other gems. So there's one. Got a checkpoint. But you can see where the inspiration from Aladdin came from, because this was developed very soon after Aladdin, or during Aladdin's development. I can't remember what order it was necessarily. But you can see the influence Aladdin had on this game. But they made it different enough to not feel like a complete copy. Same with The Lion King. The Lion King doesn't feel like a copy of Aladdin either. And I think The Lion King and the Jungle Book games came out at very similar times. The animation in this game is very good, I must say. And the vine swinging in this version and the Mega Drive version is so much better than the SNES version I've tried playing on my RetroPie. Seriously, the hit detection on the SNES version to grab those vines is awful. So here you take some unnecessary damage. I know a lot of the time it's actually kind of difficult to avoid damage in this game, and that really annoys me when I play any type of game where you just take damage if you don't know what's coming up. I like a challenge and I like seeing an enemy before I get hit. I don't like it when you're just randomly moving around and then suddenly, oh look, here's an enemy, take damage. I hate that. It really annoys me. It's so surreal watching myself play this back, because I'm noticing mistakes I'm making and things I wish I could tell my past self not to do. But I'm having to watch all of my strong moments and all of my weak moments in this playthrough. So it's a bit like making a commentary track for a film or a TV show after it's been made. It's very disorientating. and I'm trying to keep up with what I'm actually doing, because this is a new thing for me. Recording commentary after playing the game is very different, and it's not something I've done before, but I'm liking the results so far. And here I had a stupid death because I didn't jump, because I was an idiot. So that's death number 2, I think. Again, I'm trying to keep a mental check of how many times I died in this playthrough. Oh, here we go. So this is a fun mini-game you get at the end of this level, and this is Baloo's first appearance. And I'm playing this for absolutely ages. I don't think it's meant to go on as long as it did, because I just kept catching the fruit that Baloo was throwing. And yes, it's nice because it's giving me more points at the top of the screen, but at the same time, it goes on for absolutely ages. And I probably should have just jumped in the water at some point, because I'm playing this for a very long time. I don't actually know how long I was doing this for. I want to say 3 or 4 minutes? But it's ridiculous. It's certainly longer than I would have been able to have done on the console version, because I'm much better at playing on PC than I am on a console. Keyboard and mouse is my preferred control scheme. So I missed one, so the platforms are slowly sinking into the water. It's pretty cool actually how they can somehow hold Mowgli's entire body weight with his infinite amount of bananas. But yeah, Baloo's being pretty generous to me, to be honest. He's just throwing the fruit in fairly close proximity to where I am, whereas I think in the Mega Drive version he actually throws them a bit more varied. And this music is like, it's boss battle music, but it's the most ill-fitting music for this particular part of the game. As if Baloo's an enemy as opposed to a friend, but whatever. So I missed another one. Maybe the different difficulty settings actually make it so that if you miss one, you're dead on the hardest difficulty. Or if you miss so many times on easy or normal, you have a bit more leeway. But there you go. So eventually I failed. I think that was about 2 or 3 minutes thinking about it. It wasn't too bad, but it felt like an eternity when I was playing it. And I noticed as well that whatever mystery level you get, it just depends on which number it ends up on. So I think I get Mystery 1 and Mystery 4 quite a lot, but I don't see the other 2 mystery levels. So we got Baloo in the River. Chapter 5. If you don't know your Roman numerals, this is a good game to test yourself on them, because Roman numerals are good. There's Baloo in the water. Pretty cool. Again, the animation in this game is fantastic. Oh, the screen tearing kind of happened there. Interesting. I thought there was an item there, but clearly not. It's a bit deceptive. If you play this game on the hardest difficulty, trying to find gems is actually more difficult than you'd expect. But I like this song as well. I think it played in the previous level, but I'm just saying I like this song. So that beat, it just has a sort of simple, innocent quality to it. It's not in the film, as far as I'm aware, but it's a nice track. I think it's the next level where I struggle more than I should have done. And you'll see why when we get to that level. And I miss a whole bunch of gems here because I'm an absolute idiot. If it's the level I'm thinking of. Yep, I miss about 2 or 3 gems. It's quite amusing. At least to me, looking back now. But again, how would you know that? Unless if you'd played this game before. Yes, I've played this game before, but it's been quite a while since I last played it. But I got this in the same bundle that I bought The Lion King and Aladdin in a couple of years ago. I think I bought them just before I started the YouTube channel, thinking about it. It was when they were, not straight away when they were first released on Good Old Games, but it was a couple of months after, probably I think they were released on Good Old Games in sort of 2016, and I think I bought them in, I want to say mid 2017 to be honest. So here I'm trying to get all the gems I missed out on. Oh yeah, this level I don't find the compass on straight away, so I'm going in blind. It's almost as if you're playing a hard playthrough instead of a normal playthrough. And I don't find the compass until just before I finish the level because I backtracked to Baloo because I figured it would make sense for me to actually ride Baloo like in the film. Gotta keep the playthrough canon, yo. Oh yeah, and the different... so there's the compass, which I get in a moment. There we go. So on the different difficulty settings as well, the enemies take more or less hits, so when you jump on enemies twice in this difficulty setting, on hard you'd have to jump on them 3 times. Pretty much the same logic that the Lion King game uses, where if you jump on the hyenas you have to do it more or less times depending on the difficulty. And we're halfway through this already, or just under halfway through, which is pretty good going actually. I was a bit concerned at first about recording this after I'd recorded playing through the game, but to be honest it seems to be working quite well, because if I'd have tried to have played this live with commentary, 1, it would have lasted longer, and 2, I would have made more mistakes, because I'm not as experienced with this game as I am with Aladdin and the Lion King. And I don't really want to try and record live commentary for a game that has a time limit, because I'm not that good. So there's the birds again. They don't seem to mind me committing genocide against the animal kingdom with my infinite supply of bananas. And Bagheera actually wakes up in this version. I can't remember if he does in the Mega Drive one. But there we go, that's another level done, and I think here we demonstrate the different cycle mystery levels you can get. So 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so we landed on mystery 1, so we get the exact same level we played through before. Yeah, it's the same level with a couple of minor differences. Yeah, so I played this yesterday and I'm recording the commentary for it a day later. Keep it as fresh in my mind as I can, because I'm sure if I leave it any longer, there'll be a lot of details that I'll forget. The tree village. I think this is a level that was invented for the game. I don't think this really happens in the film. I get the impression this is to try and cover up for that part where Mowgli gets snatched up by the monkeys, and this was the developer's way of trying to convey that narrative. Oh, missing sound effect here with these houses when you teleport between them as well. In the DOS version that sound doesn't exist. I'm not even going to question how that elephant got on these trees. I'm just grateful he's there. And the checkpoints have infinite triggers actually. You can trigger them once, and then you find another checkpoint, you trigger that, and then you fall back down here and you trigger the previous checkpoint again. The game doesn't penalise you for that. You can do that as however many times you want, which is quite convenient sometimes. And then other times it can be inconvenient as well. So here the developers were generous enough to give the player an option to try and extend their time, which is very nice of them, even if it is only by a couple of seconds. There's the compass, and there's a flying squirrel here who's a bit of a concern, because they can do very good damage to you if you're not careful. Oh, here you'll notice I got stuck on the tree somehow. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just me sucking. I want to say it's the game, because I think they're trying to create this realism of being stuck in trees if you're not careful. But it is very inconvenient when you're playing the game trying to actually go up or down a vine. Now I've read that this game was inspired by Pitfall, which I can get, but at the same time I don't get, because I don't think it's anything like Pitfall. The only similarities they have is the fact that you run and jump obstacles and pitfalls. That's about it. Pitfall is, by today's standards, very basic, but it is a fun game. And I certainly wouldn't call the Jungle Book game Pitfall. I don't know, somebody compared it to it and I was thinking like, I think you're stretching a little bit there, but okay. And this is quite a generic track. You'd think for a level like this, you'd have something a bit more memorable. It doesn't really feel memorable. It's just a bit of a generic track. At least the level 2 music, you had that sort of arcadey sound to it. This is just boring in comparison. It's definitely the worst track in the game. Here we have the Witch Doctor, and I struggled to find him initially. But this is the part of the game where I struggled to actually beat a boss, and it was so embarrassing, because when I played it before I had no problems with it. Here though, I was dying to the Witch Doctor about 3 or 4 times, and it's a good thing I didn't record this live, because you would have heard me get annoyed very quickly. Particularly because I run out of all the good weapons and I'm stuck just throwing the regular bananas, which are good, but they're not as good as the other weapons you can pick up. Because all the bosses, they take quite a lot of damage from regular bananas, but the moment you switch to anything else, oh, they're history in a lot of cases. Wandering around because I'm lost, I don't know where I'm going, and it's annoying because I'm just wasting time, but whatever, it doesn't matter. This is the typical maze level that you get in some games. Can be fun for some people, irritating for others. Particularly if you don't know what you're doing with these houses, you're probably sitting there thinking, what am I actually doing for this level? The game doesn't really teach you how to navigate certain parts of the environment very well. I think they leave it up to the player's imagination. Sometimes I have to use enemies I haven't killed yet to make sure I'm sort of on the right lines. But again, see, the bananas are missing everything, and it's really irritating in this version. The DOS version makes it much more... It makes it more apparent that you should be jumping on enemies instead of throwing weapons at them, because it's more useful to jump on enemies instead. So I think I'm close to where I need to be. Yeah, here we go. Here's the Witch Doctor. A boss that's just been invented for this game. So this first bit, relatively straightforward. You just have to take the monkeys out behind the shield. And they only have a limited throw range as well, so it's not too bad. So they now explode. Now this is where I have a lot of problems, because you can only hit them so many times, it takes a while to do. And if you so much as jump up at the one guy on the left, or the one monkey on the left, you take damage, and it's really irritating because you can't really aim at the far right monkey as easily. At least for me it wasn't as easy to do. So I'm sure I'll have a lot of people screaming at me whilst this part is going on, because I die quite a lot for stupid reasons. But if I need to have one level where I play stupidly, at least it's this one. Some of Mowgli's idle animations are quite fun to watch as well if you just stand there. So, you know, he'll check the time as if he has a watch, and there's a death. I think death number... I've lost count already. Is it death 3 or death 4? I think it's death 3. So yeah, Mowgli's checking his watch there, as you can see. Another one, he does that little dance, and, you know, there's quite a few fun animations in there. I think I died to this boss 3 or 4 times. That's how bad I am at this boss battle. And it's really irritating considering he's not even meant to be the hardest boss in the game. Now I took some damage as well, because the hitbox for Mowgli is pretty strict on this level. This area is not designed very well for a boss battle. It's deliberately designed against the player, which you know is fair, but it's irritating. Yeah, this boss battle music, for some reason, it makes me laugh more than it should do. And there again you can see how tight it is sometimes to actually attack these monkeys. You have to hit each one so many times before one of them explodes, so you have to hit one loads of times before that particular monkey explodes, then you do the same for the other two. I think by the time I eventually beat this boss battle, I'm 10 seconds away from losing the actual level, and if the time runs out on a level, it treats it as if you've died, so you get the same death animation play again. Well, sorry, I should say, Mowgli was knocked out and was unconscious and needed to be recovered by the paramedics there, the monkey paramedics. It's quite an amusing death screen. So we're going to have a third attempt at these guys. Before anyone says anything, I definitely didn't promise a 100% no kills run, no deaths run. The Disney games are always deceptively difficult, particularly when Virgin Interactive were involved with them. I know there's been more Jungle Book games, so I know there's different versions on the NES and the Master System and the Game Gear and whatever else existed. I think the Game Boy had a version as well, and even the Game Boy Advance at one point. But I've not played any of those. I've only played this version, which is also on the Mega Drive, and I've also played a bit of the SNES version. And I know there's another Jungle Book game on the PlayStation, which I remember being released, but I never played it, because by then I was like, I don't need to play Disney games. Or at least I don't need to play Disney games that I'm not too interested in. I gave myself a limit back then. I played the Disney games I like the look of, not all of them. Because the Disney games started kind of going downhill towards the end of the original PlayStation for me. There are some great Disney games on the PlayStation, but not at the very end of it, unfortunately. And I just don't play Disney games now. At least not new ones. I play the old stuff, naturally, but not the newer stuff. I do eventually find a strategy for this boss battle. It just takes me a ridiculous amount of time to discover what it actually is, because I sucked so much playing this. That's one thing you can count on me for with this channel. I will say when I suck at stuff. I'm not going to blame the game for my failures. I'm honest that way. It was weird as well, because I was expecting to have more trouble with the next boss that this game throws at you than this particular boss battle. So here I'm trying out a new strategy. It's not quite working. At least I don't think it is. It's been a while. Again, it's been 24 hours since I recorded this, so I'm doing this based off a day's memory, and I'm dead again. Hopefully that's the last time I die on this level. But apparently we have half an hour to go before the recording finishes. So that's going to be interesting. I actually got through this game relatively quickly, aside from this stupid boss battle. If I hadn't died so much here, I would have beaten the game in a fairly decent time. But again, I'm not a speedrun person, so don't think that I'm going to try and speedrun games, because that's just not my thing. I know for some people it's their thing, but for me it isn't. I certainly wouldn't do a speedrun of this game because I don't know it as well as other games. And here, the witch doctor seems to be able to survive more hits than normal. I'm not sure why. Maybe the game's just mocking me for dying at this boss so often. So I think... Oh, I hope this is where I actually beat them. I think it is. But yeah, this battle lasted way too long, and it's probably the most embarrassing moment of the actual recording. And this song will probably haunt me for the next few days, because I heard it so often during this recording. But yeah, it was always my intention to actually play through these early Disney games on the channel, because I figured they were fun games that I could play in one part and just do for an hour, say, and complete them. And they'd almost be like a light let's play. I didn't need to make too much time for them. I could use it as a bit of a breather from other games I'm playing. And it's just a fun way to sort of reminisce about all the childhood nostalgia I had, which is why I named all these early Disney videos Childhood Nostalgia, and then sequel style titles for the rest. I had Childhood Nostalgia for The Lion King, I had more Childhood Nostalgia for Aladdin, and then I've gone for even more childhood nostalgia with The Jungle Book. I do want to do more one-off Let's Plays, because the idea is definitely there. How often I'll do them is a question that I still need to figure out an answer to, but I do want to do more of them when and if I can. But it was always my intention to do The Lion King, then Aladdin, and then The Jungle Book, because that's the order of how often I played each one. Started off with the one I was most familiar with, then move on to the second most familiar one, and then the third sort of familiar one, but it's the one I was least familiar with. I had beaten each game multiple times as a kid, but I still played them to varying degrees. So that's why I played The Lion King on hard, and whilst I was originally intending to play both of these games on hard as well, you know, both Aladdin and The Jungle Book, only The Lion King remained on the hard difficulty because I suck at the other two. And if you played both Aladdin and The Jungle Book on hard, I think they're much more brutal than The Lion King is on hard. But that might just be because I'm way too familiar with the Lion King game. So here we're doing... well, I'm doing better. My past self is doing better. It's just unfortunate that the monkey on the far left is quite difficult to hit when you've got these two dickheads in the way. And yes, I did just call two monkeys dickheads. Leave me alone. And as you can see, the timer's going down. It's pretty grim how badly I'm doing at this level. And there we go, we finally took a monkey out. For some reason, these guys have way more health than they should have. And there we go, that's the other one gone. Now we just need to get rid of this dickhead here. If I'd have died here, I would have been so upset and so angry. But it was a good thing we gathered a whole bunch of lives with Blue on the other level, because otherwise we'd only have like 2 or 3 lives left. So I have to try and beat this monkey in 55 seconds. Can I do it? Particularly as I can't take any more damage. So I can't get any closer. I have no special weapons to get his health down quicker. Watching this back now is actually quite tense. Because I know the result, and you guys will know the result because I hinted at it earlier, and I pretty much told you what happens. But it's still tense to watch. If you watch this on silent, you'd be thinking, can this guy actually beat this monkey in 21 seconds? But yeah, it really annoyed me that this is the boss I had the most trouble with. Even the main villain of this game isn't as bad as this. In fact, the main boss of the game is actually relatively straightforward, but we beat it with 5 seconds to spare. Awesome. I'm not sure what the highest score you can achieve in this game is. I'm sure somebody out there's got the highest score possible in the Jungle Book and brags about it. So here we go, King Louie. There's 2 King Louie levels. King Louie was one of those weird Disney characters who had a very complex rights issue. And I believe that was to do with the voice actor. It was very odd, like how much his estate had control over the whole King Louie character. And I'm trying to get this compass here, and I'm struggling immensely because I'm an idiot, but there we go, we finally got it. Oh, this is a really good remix of I Want to Be Like You as well. And there's a slight variation of this theme in the following level as well. It's actually quite cool how the developers differentiated the two different arrangements. And I'm struggling to get certain things here. But this level definitely feels like the Jungle Book, the film. It's great. This is as close as it gets to the film for me, alongside the Bare Necessities theme. And I couldn't remember if I could take those skulls out, and I find out later on you can, but they just have a lot of hit points before they eventually blow up, for want of a better word. Oh, these monkeys here, these blue monkeys, they only appear on this level and the next. Then they don't show up ever again. Mowgli has some good dodge here. I wonder who's playing it. Wouldn't be me. Hint, hint. But yeah, I find out here you can take these skulls out. And there's Bagheera just sleeping through all this noise somehow. This level's kind of Indiana Jones-like, actually, looking back at it. A lot of pitfalls, a lot of traps, a lot of spike traps that you'd find in the Indiana Jones films. And we expanded our time limit there. I think it does it by 30 seconds. Oh, and I can't remember if I covered it earlier in this Let's Play or not, but when you get so many weapons it caps out at 99, but then it actually reveals how much you actually have, and I think it normally, yeah, it goes down to like the late 20s. It's very bizarre. I experimented with that a little bit whilst recording, so you will notice moments where I'm just standing around messing around with the gameplay mechanics because I don't know what I'm doing, or I just want to experiment with something. And there we go, the hit detection had its way with me again whilst I was swinging. Those scorpions are a pain as well. In any version of the game, they're just annoying. The monkeys aren't too bad. They're actually relatively straightforward to deal with because they're quite big targets. They're sort of like the most frequent enemy you encounter in the game as well. But again, if you're a watcher of mine, feel free to tell me if you like this approach to recording the commentary after I've played through the game, because I will consider doing more of them in this manner if it works. And here I just decided to end the level because I couldn't be bothered to find the last 2 gems. The bonus levels are only really there if you want to try and get a better score or a higher score. And I could skip all these ending screens over at any time, but I decided not to. So this level can be a pain if you don't know what you're doing. It's actually one of the more difficult levels of the game, but it is passable. It is easy to pass once you know what you're doing. I did pretty well on this actually. The Mega Drive version I had trouble with, but here I was absolutely fine. Again, it might be because I'm just better with a keyboard and a mouse than I am with a controller, but whatever. I do die here because I had no choice but to commit suicide with Mowgli because I had no way of making my way to the top of the level. Because that's the whole point of this. You have to make your way to the top of the level to fight King Louie. And you'll notice some of these blocks have spikes in them, so you have to time your jumps very carefully. But nobody would know this pattern the first time they played through. You have to make some really dodgy leaps of faith. So you make a leap of faith hoping you don't die, and then you end up dying, and then you're like, oh, that's where I had to go. Or that's how I had to approach the jump. It's really evil. And I do make a mistake later where I accidentally jumped on one of those exploding blocks, and then I had no choice but to kill Mowgli because I couldn't make my way up. You'll see that soon. but I did surprisingly better at this level than I was expecting whilst recording. Only one death. Boss fight wasn't as hard as I remembered, because when I played this before I was struggling with it, because I played it on my RetroPie with the Mega Drive version. So here you're making leaps of faith, hoping you don't die. I don't like it when games do that, as I've said. If the game's sort of... Say there I made a mistake and I had no choice, I couldn't get up there, so unless if the blocks respawned, but I wasn't prepared to wait. So I tried to kill Mowgli here and I just keep landing on stuff. The one time I don't want to land on something, until there we go. Spike death there, nasty. Nasty fall. Yeah, Mowgli, you definitely need paramedics after that. But again, wasn't too bad. I had a fairly decent checkpoint there. Oh, and it did respawn, I think, but it doesn't matter because that's not the way we need to go. But yeah, this will be a pretty fun Let's Play to upload tomorrow, because it was relatively quick to record. It was relatively easy to record the commentary for, even though I've just been talking randomly today because I have no clue what I'm saying whilst I'm talking over my past self playing this. So I'm just making it up as I go along. And then inwardly criticising my own performance of how I played this. Like anyone would. Now I was expecting to have trouble with the end of this level, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much easier it was than I was expecting. Mainly because I had actual good weapons to take King Louie out, which I didn't have with the Witch Doctor. I think every time you complete a level, all your bonus weapons and projectiles reset, which is really irritating because you could do with keeping them between levels and have them level to level, but I think the game just resets how many projectiles you actually have, or at least lowers them so you're not completely overpowered. And here we go, here's King Louie. Pretty good animation for King Louie actually. And again, he has much better music on the Mega Drive version when you fight him. This jump here, you have to do some stupid manoeuvre, and it was fine doing it on here, but when I played it with a controller, I kept taking so much damage, I couldn't time the jumps very well. And King Louie can be annoying if you don't know his different moveset. But there we go, he's defeated already. Really easy. Why is King Louie ruling this part of the jungle? It should be the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor killed me 4 or 5 times. Make the Witch Doctor the ruler of the jungle. But after those 3 levels, we actually get a relatively straightforward one next, after the bonus level, because the bonus level is always straightforward. The next level, level 9, is relatively straightforward. You get a slightly different view of the jungle. It's a nice colour palette change, and it's sort of like a reminder of the first level but sort of mirrored. It's actually quite a nice breather between the past 3 levels and the final level of the game, because there's 10 levels in the Jungle Book. I think 10 levels was kind of the thing that Virgin Interactive liked. They always liked 10 levels in their games, unless if Aladdin had a little bit more, a little bit less. I'll have to double check when I finish recording this. But I think 10 levels was kind of the happy medium that the developers like to go with for these Disney games at the time. Jungle at Night. This is a nice level, but I don't like the choice of music the DOS version picks. It's much more appropriate on the Mega Drive one. And I do like how all these levels start with hints of what's actually happening with the levels and the overall plot. Okay, this music here, this is the music that plays when Baloo's throwing fruit at you on that one level, on the Mega Drive version. It doesn't appear there, but it appears here. And this music's pretty good as a pumping you up for the final level and the end of the game kind of deal, but it doesn't work. I prefer the Mega Drive version where it's actually solemn and it's quite grim and there's a lot of grim undertones to it. So, I don't know, I'm not a fan of this music being used on this level, but I prefer it when it's used for Baloo throwing fruit at you. And you'll notice a couple of seconds ago I took on the owl from Bambi why he's suddenly gone from being a nice wise owl to somebody who's trying to kill Mowgli like the rest of the animal kingdom is beyond me. I have no clue why the wise owl's gone evil, but I'm sure that was just an Easter egg from the developers and the animators who may have consulted with this game. I'm not sure if they did to the same extent as The Lion King and Aladdin, but there you go. I'm thinking about it now, and I missed a gem just. This level also has a bit of a Mega Drive-y kind of arcadey sort of sound to it. There's a lot of flying squirrels this time of night as well, but I love the colour palette for the background, for the backdrop. It's really nice. I wish more levels had this style, because unfortunately this is the only one that has this nighttime aesthetic. And Mowgli's a lot more proactive in this game than he is in the actual Disney film. In the Disney film, rewatching it a couple of days ago, I've noticed how irritating Mowgli actually was. Now I understand he's a kid, so you can't really blame him for that, but he's more irritating than I remembered him being. Like, Baloo and Bagheera do more in the Jungle Book film than Mowgli does. Mowgli was actually a lot more likeable in the live action films, I thought. In the Disney film, he was just kind of like, well, he was just annoying. But whatever. At least here he gets a bit of a better, he basically has better characterisation, and somehow I landed on that without dying. I got quite lucky there, because in theory I should have died. I can't remember if I find all the gems on this level. I don't think I do, but if I do, this is the last time I find them. Oh, and there I had a stupid death. But that was my own fault. I undershot the jump. But I decided to just complete the level anyway, because I felt like it, and the bat decided to join in, which was nice of the bat. But there we go, one more level to go. And it's not a boss battle. You still have to collect gems before you can fight the boss. But there you go. And there's the vultures. You don't actually see the vultures much in this game. In fact, I don't think you even see them on this level. You just see them in that little... on the book. Very odd. And yes, the boss battle music is back. So you know that it's business as usual. And there's a unique enemy there with the hyena, or something that looks like a hyena. Oh, this level is so bizarre. The lightning tracks where you are on the screen. It seriously has a grudge against Mowgli. It's almost as if the lightning's programmed to try and kill you. So there I took some damage from it, and Mowgli just shakes it off as if it's nothing. But seriously, what does the Animal Kingdom have against Mowgli? And what does this thunder and lightning have against Mowgli? Did Shere Khan somehow tell nature to just kill Mowgli as much as possible, and then commanded the thunder and lightning to kill him? It's a bit extreme. But whatever. It's just a funny little thing I noticed. And that thunder and lightning does actually make me jump sometimes when I heard it. Well, sometimes when I hear it, because one minute you hear nothing and then it suddenly goes like that. And then other times it will just keep going endlessly, trying to relentlessly kill this innocent kid. Oh, and this guy looks way too happy to be in a post-apocalyptic looking wasteland. That lizard or whatever it is. But the idea is with the lightning, as long as you keep moving, you normally don't get hit. If you stand still as it's going off, you'll get hit. So there we go, we find Shere Khan, the main villain from the Jungle Book, who always has an intimidating voice, so that's one good thing about Shere Khan. There was a cartoon series actually I remember watching as a kid. I don't want to say it was Tailspin, because that could be something completely different, but it was a series of, was it Jungle Cubs? I think it was Jungle Cubs. And the idea was it was a prequel series where Baloo, Bagheera, King Louie and Shere Khan were all cubs, and they were all friends and they all got on. And I remember it being quite a good TV series actually. I was the right age to watch it at the time, and I had a lot of fun with it. Disney had some good cartoon series back then. Yes, a lot of them were cheap to make and a lot of them were cheap to animate, and the animation looked rough compared to the films, but they were still fun to watch. Wouldn't mind seeing some of them again. And I find the compass way too late. Oh, and Shere Khan's pretty easy in this as well. It's actually pretty embarrassing how easy he is. I had more trouble with Scar and Jafar in The Lion King and Aladdin than I did Shere Khan. The environment was trying to kill me more than Shere Khan does in this level. You know who the real villain of this game is? The Lightning. The Lightning and the Witch Doctor, they're the worst enemies in this game. Oh wait, do I actually find the last gem? There's the owl from Bambi again. He's now dead. Yep, so I got all the gems. Cool. Oh, and I died. I forgot about that. I died stupidly. So Shere Khan won. He didn't get to kill Mowgli, but he got the satisfaction of knowing that Mowgli was dead. So here we go. This is a relatively straightforward boss battle. Don't get hit by the bits of fire. And make sure you move off the platforms when they move down, otherwise you die in the fiery pits below. And then for some reason Shere Khan just starts screaming sonic waves at you. Remember that part in the Jungle Book film where Shere Khan just started shouting sonic waves at Mowgli? Because again, Mowgli's more badass in this game. Like, he actually does things, which he doesn't do in the film. This is a fight that Baloo handled in the film. And there's Shere Khan, his tail sets on fire after banana abuse. Which is totally what happened in the film. And there we go, that's done. We've beaten the Jungle Book. Could have played it better, to be honest, but I had fun playing it. And I probably will play it again at some point. Not for the channel, but I'll play it again in my own time. Oh, and then that music you heard when you beat the levels on this version, that's normally what plays here, but for some reason you've got the generic arcadey sound for the end of the game, which is completely ill-fitting. Yeah, Mowgli would have made one swell bear. Oh, and this next bit, you can't play this. This is just something that's automatically done for you. So it looks like I'm playing it, but I'm not. The AI takes over here. Not sure why, because it seems really pointless, but whatever. So there you go, the girl from the end of the film is there, and my final score is however you pronounce that number there. I'm not very good at pronouncing big numbers like that. I want to say, well, I don't know, it's just saying can you beat it on hard, and oh my god, these credits are fast. And there's somebody called the Fat Man in there, which is quite amusing. But yeah, why are these credits so quick? It's almost as if the development team didn't want to have their names in the credits. They're like, yeah, let's move on. But that's the Jungle Book. Fun game. If you want to spend some time playing through it, I recommend you do. It is fun to play. Can be difficult at times, can be irritating at times. There are some cheap ways to get hit and take damage. And I just let the main menu roll for a bit because there's a couple of demos that you can watch. Not sure how many because I did get bored eventually. But these last 5 minutes are just watching the random demos. But these demos are interesting because they just tell you how the game works. So search for icons to collect. And then you get another one in a moment. Climb vines to reach the trees. It needs like a cheesy announcer to read all this. Collect new weapons. I don't know. I can't think of many demos that actually put information about the game whilst the demo's going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it that often. And to jump the wide gaps. And we're back to Virgin Interactive. And East Point Software, who handled all of these MS-DOS ports. And you get the storyline again. I think I skip it. Do I skip it, or was I stupid enough to let it roll again? No, I skipped it. Cool. Do I play another demo? Yeah, you know what? I've got 4 minutes left or so. I'll just talk for the remaining few minutes. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to play next. I want to do another one-off Let's Play, and I have a few vague ideas what I might do. I just don't know when I'm going to do it. Still got one big Let's Play to go through. I definitely don't want to make the one-off Let's Plays only last one a year. I only did that deliberately with these Disney ones because I kind of wanted to show 3 of my earliest games first before I moved on to anything else. Because the one-off Let's Plays should be games that I don't think would make good Let's Plays long term, but they're fun enough for one video. Yeah, look up and down. As if that's a revolutionary feature for a game. Did the developer just kill themselves in that demo? Dear me, that's pretty embarrassing. Although you gotta remember that some of the demos for games have people or testers playing them, or even developers playing them, that aren't necessarily good at their own game. It does happen. I've developed games in the past where I suck at what I've created. But that's inevitable. Because if you make the game too good for you to play, as in it's too easy to play, then you know you've got a problem. Because if you're finding it easy to play as a developer, then your audience is likely to find it easy as well. You have to get the right balance with game development. Now I believe there's one more demo that plays for level 5, because they sort of skip levels. Yeah, it's every odd numbered level they're showing demos for. Or maybe I just got lucky and saw odd numbered levels. Now I'm hoping I can sync the audio nicely to this. Oh wow, that's rude. The guy in the demo decided, Mowgli can go on blue. Nah, joking, I just want to go. Don't know how Mowgli took damage there, because nothing actually hit him, but okay. We're getting very close to the end now. Yep, there we go. The developers just get bored playing through the Jungle Book and decide to make Mowgli die. That's a bit mean of them. Yeah, nothing particularly interesting happens here. It's just me winding down the video. I was taking a short break because I'd just beaten the game. I decided to stand up because I've been recording for over an hour, and now I've just been talking for over an hour recording the post-commentary, so I've done 2 jobs in what I could have done in 1, but I decided to separate the commentary and the gameplay for once. Again, let me know if this is an approach that works for you. I want some feedback if you decide to post anything. But yeah, there you go. That's the Jungle Book, a game that I had a lot of fun with as a kid, and I still enjoy now. I've played through all 3 of the Disney games that I played through as a kid, so I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.